Hello, it's Amoni Pinalla, and today we're doing another analysis of Equinox. We got a big update today on what we can expect from Equinox, which is very exciting. So we're going to take a look at the update. So two things came out. There was a video where some of the CCP devs talk about the update that is coming June 11th, and then there is also an article which basically has much of the same content in text form. So we're going to take a look at some of that. So we got clarification on these new structures. And the first one is the skyhook. The skyhook is the Sovaloo structure that we now know is going to replace POCOs. And one of the things that I've seen in discussion already is why would you want a skyhook if you have POCOs already? Well, there are going to be three new resources that you will need to maintain your sovereignty hub. So there is going to be reagents, there is going to be power, and then there's also going to be workforce. So all of these are going to be important for accessing or upgrading your sovereignty hub. We'll get into the sovereignty hub a little bit more later, but the reason why you're going to need the skyhooks is because you're going to be able to collect resources that can only be obtained using skyhooks as opposed to POCOs. It's not going to be enough to stick to the old PI system in Sovaloo. No, it's just not going to cut it. Now, I'm assuming that means that LowSec and MVC null and wormhole space are going to be completely unaffected by this, which we kind of figured anyways, but we'll see what that has here. Interesting enough, one of the things that's going to be unlocked with the skyhook is the pirate orbital blockade. This is the blockade that we talked about in my last video. The NPCs are going to try to disrupt your collection of resources via the skyhook, and this is going to offer the opportunity for higher level PvE. So capital spawns, officer spawns, and that's going to include, it says, super capitals. So this will be an interesting, much more challenging PvE encounter that will spawn, which will hopefully create more engagement as an alliance, right? So alliances will have the opportunity to engage with this content in a way that I think will hopefully satisfy like the more crab-oriented folks, because you need all of them to be engaged together. And speaking of the resources that skyhooks bring in, they are going to be used to upgrade the sovereignty hub. So the sovereignty hub, as we discussed before, is going to replace the TCU and iHub, which is going to be a nice little change. I don't think anybody really loved the iHub or the I don't really think people loved the iHub or the TCU, so this will be a nice change. The big difference here is that it sounds like they keep stressing, especially in the video. CCP keeps stressing that these sovereignty hubs are going to provide a massive change to the way things work. Specifically, it's going to make it possible to much more customize your space. And system to system, you'll be able to upgrade these sovereignty hubs in such a way that you can prioritize what that system is used for. Now that's interesting because, it's already the case that people, these big Sovaloo alliances have, they have back pockets for crabbing and things like that, doing industry and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see if sovereignty hubs enhance that, if they complicate it. But the big thing here is that because of the dependence upon resources from skyhooks, and skyhooks we learned are now going to be vulnerable to attack in a similar way as citadels. They're going to have a short reinforcement timer, similar to like an Osterhaus or an Athenor, and reinforcing it will allow you to steal resources. So the interesting thing about that is because you need those resources for your sovereignty hub to upgrade it and to keep it maintained, it sounds like there's going to be a lot more active involvement. It's not going to be the kind of thing where you can just place down a sovereignty hub and, as long as nobody attacks it, nobody tries to toast it, you have the system and it's fine. That is, I think, going to change the way that Sovaloo territories is divided. Some of my alliance mates don't think so. Some people think it just means that there will be more dead space. It'll be interesting to see. Because essentially what this is saying is that sovereignty hubs will require significantly more maintenance than iHubs or TCUs, which don't really require maintenance once they're upgraded. And now people can jack your stuff in a similar way to ESSs. They said that there's going to be a hacking minigame similar to the ESS that will create more ways of creating conflict. So when I said that they're kind of turning this into Stellaris, it seems like that might be a little closer to the truth than I was hoping for. But the good news is that it does mean that there's a potential for more fights. It's already the case that sometimes people don't even undock to defend ESSs, especially if they're, it's not big ISK or it's not an important system where a lot of people are crabbing. But this could be a game changer because not all the resources in every system are going to be available. So you need a certain number of resources from all the resources, all the reagents, all the power and the workforce. You need all of those, and there are different types of reagents. The two that they showed us were lava and ice. So I don't know if those are the only two, but you're going to need all of them in order to upgrade your sovereignty, and those come from planets, and not every system has all those planets, which means that even your back pockets may become vital resources that you need to maintain your sovereignty hubs, which means that you can't just assume that they are safe, which is interesting and fun. Interesting thing here, not only can you disrupt the skyhooks, but you can also disrupt the sovereignty structures. So you can potentially disrupt a sovereignty hub's something called a workforce transport complex. And that sounds interesting. Like, basically, all the new structures can be disrupted or attacked. The metoxmundils are extremely vulnerable, so only a single short reinforcement timer. So it, again, sounds like the Astra House or an Athenor. Very short reinforcement timer. They're very vulnerable. Any materials trapped inside reinforce moondrills, allowing aggressors to provoke engagement or loot resources for themselves should they be able to destroy the structure. And this is interesting. So you can put down your own Metanox moondrill. Now, based on what the CCP devs said in the video, I'm led to believe the Metanox moondrill is not a module for an Athenor or a Tatara, but its own structure, which is interesting. Not what I was expecting. And also, interestingly, they're fueled by not just fuel blocks, but reagents. So this is going to be interesting because these Metanox moondrills are available in low-sec, null-sec wormhole space, but that does mean that, like, if you want to have it in NPC null, low-sec, or wormhole, you're going to also have to be buying reagents from Sovaloo. So there's an interesting market there. I don't expect it to be like a major game changer, but it does mean that if low-sec, null-sec, and wormhole space decide to start using these Metanox moondrills, it will mean that folks are going to be dependent on Sovaloo to export reagents, which will mean another avenue of income for Sovaloo. So that's interesting. That could be a disaster for wormhole space, I think, specifically because there's already a perception that wormhole space has a metric ton of income resources that are not available to wormholers or low sec, and especially not high sec. But we're not really focused on high sec here. But the perception is that Sovaloo has so many ISK faucets, and wormhole really only has one, and that is the ADOMs in like C5 space, that C5 and C6s, right? Those are a pretty big ISK faucet. Returning to the issue at hand, the other thing that they're doing is they're improving the interface, and there's a nice little preview of what the interface is going to look like, which is cool. Honestly, this is not as exciting as what I was expecting. This is not, as far as I can tell, this is not the corp management overhaul that they were promising. This is just previewing what managing like your sovereignty hub and managing your resources is going to look like. So that's an interesting sneak peek at what it's going to look like. They're promising it's going to be very manageable. It doesn't look terribly complicated. It's got tabs, it's got search features, but as with everything, this stuff could really be a crapshoot. It looks like, just based on what I am seeing here, it looks like the ADMs or the nothing is changing about ADMs. You're still going to have a military index, an industry index, and a strategic index, and that's going to calculate all into your overall ADM, which is fine. Okay, I kind of think the whole ADM thing is weird, but whatever. You know what? I'm new to Sovaloo. It's a thing. We just kind of deal with it. It does look like there will be some more access that the average line member of an alliance will have, not in terms of control, but just being able to track more data about how well things are going. So if there is say there are pirate blockades and you're losing resources, presumably that means that the average line member is going to be able to see that from a glance in any given system. And if there is like a sinkhole where things are just falling through and you're losing resources due to blockades or maybe frequent raids by players just trying to disrupt your stuff, like that's going to be visible to line members, which is interesting. So all in all, I think these are interesting changes. I don't know if they're going to be good. Like this could totally suck. It could really just be an absolute dog doo-doo update. But at least just looking at what they're promising, the prospect of a replacement for Pocos, and I absolutely hate Pocos. They are a scourge on this game. They are so annoying. I'm very excited about them being replaced by skyhooks, which will operate under presumably similar mechanics to the existing citadels, which is to say they will have a certain amount of HP with a reinforcement timer using the shield, armor, and hull timers. I don't know. I think it's going to be a single hull timer, but or like a single timer between shield and armor hull, similar to Astra House and Athenor. That's what I'm led to believe anyways. And same with the Metnox Moon Drill. That's going to have a very short reinforcement timer. Although I do suspect that the Metnox Moon Drill is going to be much easier to hit than the Skyhook, which is interesting. It seems like there's going to be a reward, like you're going to be rewarded for investing in the Skyhook, right? Like it's going to be more defensible, anything previously. Although the Pocos are pretty hard to kill. I just think it's not good content. I don't know anyone who's bashed a Poco and thought, man, that was so much fun. I want to do it again next weekend. Let's go. It's really a dog doo-doo level content, and so this is a welcome change. The other thing I wanted to say was that I thought it was interesting. CCP devs did mention in the video that one of the things they're hoping to do with the Metanox Moon Drill is they are hoping for basically, they want the Metnox moon drills to be used on low-tier moons, right? So, moons have a certain quality. They have like an R number that tells you their quality, and I don't know them off the top of my head because I'm not super into mining. That's just not content I super enjoy. Some people find it very chill, and that's great for them. It's not mine. But the point is, there are only so many moons that actually have a ton of value. And so the idea is you put the Metnox moon drill on these low-tier moons, and they do the mining for you, so that you can focus on these high-value moons, and then also spend less time just mining garbage moon ore, which is, it could be a good thing, right? Like, this lends itself more to my thinking that, like, this could be a thing that NPC Null, Lowsec, and not Sov Null, but Wormhole Space use, which is a good thing, an interesting thing, because it means more resources being easily brought into the game, and it's accessible to more than just Sov Null, which I think is important. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a big faucet, right? This is not going to be a major shakeup in the faucets in Eve, right? But it does sound like what this is going to do is it's going to essentially make Eve Online a lot more focused on the content that you want to do and less of the content that you have to do just so you can do the content that you want to do, right? So that'll be interesting. One thing that's not clear to me, and this is something I'm very curious about, is how will these Metnox moon drills affect your industry index, right? So will the industry index go up at the same rate as if you were manually mining these moons? That's something I'm really curious about, because hitting these things could be a strategic move in a number of different ways. If you can hit a Metnox moon drill and knock it out, and it impacts an industry, your industry index, just as much as if you were able to successfully and repeatedly log off trap a bunch of miners in a system, that's interesting. And that's a cool little piece of content, which means that defending these Metnox moon drills could be super important. And I just find all of that super interesting and fun. So I'm looking forward to finding out more about this. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Give me a like, subscribe, and share with your friends who are excited or interested in this new expansion that they're calling Equinox. Take care, everybody. Fly safe.